Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most profound paradoxes of the human mind, how the most terrifying experience imaginable, obliteration, can somehow become the most liberating, how our greatest fear might just be the key to our greatest freedom. Our journey really starts with this potent, almost cryptic piece of wisdom: die before you die. What on earth does that mean? Well, it's a hint at this incredible secret that there's a kind of death we can go through while we're still very much alive. A death that doesn't end our life, but completely transforms it. And this, right here, is the central question we're wrestling with. What if that thing we're all biologically and psychologically programmed to avoid at all costs, the dissolution of our very self, isn't actually an ending? What if it's a doorway? Okay, let's get right into it. The entire concept really hinges on a single crucial idea that one event, the dissolution of the self, can be experienced in two totally radically different ways. It all just depends on your point of view. So, from the perspective of your personality, your ego, this experience feels like total annihilation. It's game over, the end of everything you've ever known. But from the perspective of the consciousness underneath it all, the witness, that exact same event feels like liberation, a revelation, a homecoming to what you always were. So that raises a huge question, right? Why is it so terrifying? If it's really a homecoming, why does it feel like you're falling into an endless void? Well, to understand that, we first need to get a handle on what the ego, the thing that's so afraid, actually is. Here's a fantastic way to think about it. Your ego, your personality, it's not your core essence. It's more like a character in a video game. It's this brilliantly useful avatar that consciousness uses to interact with the world. It has a backstory, it has skills, it has relationships, but it's a construct. It's just a pattern of information that's constantly running. It's not who you are, it's the character you are currently playing. And this brings us to the most important point of all. If the event itself is the same, a temporary interruption of that ego-building process, what's the variable? What is it that determines whether you experience a complete hellscape of terror or a heaven of ecstatic release? Here it is. This is the pivot point. The experience turns into terror when you cling to that video game character, when you truly believe you are the avatar as it starts to glitch and dissolve. It becomes ecstasy when you remember that you're the player, the consciousness that's just witnessing the character's temporary shutdown. The crucial insight is this: suffering is just resistance. The pain comes from fighting what's happening. Now, let's look at how this isn't some obscure, once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing. It turns out humanity has found a whole bunch of different ways, or gateways, to access this state of dissolution, to practice letting go of the avatar. And these gateways are all over the place. We're talking about everything from the intense journeys you can have on psychedelics to the gradual surrender in deep meditation, which can lead to what mystics call the dark night of the soul. You can even find a taste of it at the peak of an orgasm, the petit mort, or little death. And of course, there's the ultimate gateway, physical death itself. They're all kind of like rehearsals for the same core experience. And if we zoom in on psychedelics for a moment, it's fascinating to see how these different molecular keys can unlock the same territory, but each one has a totally unique character. Psilocybin is often called a gentle teacher. LSD can be a very long, analytical journey. DMT is like being shot out of a cannon into some hyperdimensional circus. And then there's 5-MeO-DMT, which is often reported as just a total dissolution into pure white light, maybe the most intense ego obliteration of them all. But here's the key thing to remember. These molecules aren't creating a mystical experience. They're more like circuit breakers. They temporarily disrupt the part of your brain that maintains your sense of self, your default mode network, and that allows you to finally perceive the vast underlying consciousness that was always there, just hidden behind the ego's constant chatter. So this profound personal journey, it's not just a quirk of brain chemistry. It's actually deeply encoded in our most ancient myths. It's a sacred pattern that cultures have recognized for thousands of years. Long, long before modern psychology had a name for ego death, the ancient Greeks had a god for it, Dionysus. He was known as the twice-born god, and if you look at his story, it's a perfect map of this entire cycle of dissolution and reconstitution. So the myth goes that the infant Dionysus is literally torn to pieces by the Titans, a total dismemberment. Sound familiar? It's just like the ego dissolving. But his heart, his core essence, survives. Zeus takes this heart, and from it, Dionysus is reborn. It's the perfect allegory, a complete shattering, the survival of the essential self, and then a rebirth into a higher state of being. What's really brilliant is that the Greeks saw Dionysus as one half of a necessary whole, balanced by his brother Apollo. Apollo represents order, structure, the rational mind. He's the force that builds the ego. Dionysus, on the other hand, represents chaos, ecstasy, and the dissolution of all those structures. They believed a healthy psyche needs a constant dance between the two, the building up and the letting go. Okay, so let's move to the final revelation of this whole journey, what you could call the cosmic joke. It's the ultimate punchline that reframes this entire terrifying, profound, and sacred process. After all the drama, the terror, the struggle, the ecstasy, the ultimate secret is this: your true self was never, ever in danger. The person you were so desperately afraid of losing, that wasn't really you to begin with. Think about it. The ego, that video game character, sure, it can be deconstructed, but consciousness, the player, was never built in the first place, so it can't be taken apart. The whole drama is like a game of hide and seek that consciousness plays with itself. It deliberately forgets what it is, just for the sheer, unadulterated joy of remembering. And this is maybe the biggest takeaway. The whole point isn't to gain some new state of enlightenment or freedom. The experience simply reveals the fundamental freedom that was always your true nature. You aren't escaping from a prison, you're just waking up to the fact that the prison door was never locked. So we're left with this final, provocative question, a kind of trade-off that sits at the very heart of this journey. The price of admission is everything you think you are. The reward is everything you actually are. Is the revelation worth the obliteration? Well, that's a question only you can answer.